So Jaiden Ferris, yeah. So what I wanted to do, everybody, was Jaiden's dad is one of my oldest friends from Boone. Shout out Pepper's Restaurant, Jack Pepper, Claude. That's just if they're gonna watch the video, so I want to shout them out. Anyway, so Jeff is one of my oldest friends, and I've known your dad since before you were born. And we can also talk about your mom. And obviously a good way, of course. But I love your mom. You know what I mean? And for the longest time, I don't mean to get too personal right off the bat, but I saw your parents as just the perfect couple. You know what I mean? Really.
Yeah.
And it was just such a surprise when they parted ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't mean to get too personal or sensitive right off the bat.
Yeah. I when I told my mom that you were doing a podcast, she was like, "Oh my God, that is so Jamie."
Okay.
She said, but in a good way, because she was saying that one time she came over, her and my dad came over, and they were like, "What are you guys doing?" And you're like, "We're writing a screenplay." And my mom was just like, "He's so random, but he's awesome."
I think I remember that story. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And actually, I'm glad we're talking about that because I love your mom. I just don't talk to her. Your dad's my not that I pick sides, but it's just a lot of times when relationships split, you kind of stay friends with one person more than the other.
Yeah.
And I've just known your dad longer. But I'm glad you've talked to her about it because I was hoping she was going to be okay with this.
Oh yeah, no, she's fine with it.
Okay.
I've been very excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
I have a lot of conversations with people
Mm-hmm.
about it because I think that I would say that I'm pretty mature for my age,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel that a lot of adults have an easy time asking questions they're a little bit scared to ask other people too.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely inappropriate questions, but there are also questions that are personal, but if you ask them in a respectful manner for the purpose of education, I feel like they're okay to ask.
100%.
I'm fine with asking, with like responding to them.
Yeah.
Because I would say I'm also a pretty open book. Like, I don't really care. And there's definitely things that I will not share, but there's also like, I don't really mind sharing a lot of parts of my life because I think that it's better for the whole if we all can get an insider perspective on other people, so
totally
people have more empathy.
Yeah, more empathy. Yeah, that's it. It's funny how that seems like such a novel or non-universal concept. You know what I mean these days.
I was just about to say, especially right now with all of this crazy tension, I feel like it's really good to hear an insider's perspective on
yeah, it's funny because I had been wanting to talk to you about this even before all of this recent talk, and I guess that's how I guess we talked about beforehand. Sometimes I'll reference the camera like I'm talking to the public, but to not talk overly political because I didn't want to talk to you from just a political standpoint. That was not my motivation. But I've been thinking about talking to you even before this recent presidency change. And then when everything has started happening recently, especially with the bill about athletes, you know what I mean? And we can or can't talk about that, it's fine, whatever. But it's just I can't believe how much the subject of someone being transgender is so talked about and is so divisive today.
Right.
Whereas I don't think it's going to be something maybe that we talk about that much in 10 or 15 years.
No, I don't think so. I think that, like I was saying earlier, like I think that a lot of the reasons why transgender people are so in the media right now is because they're being used as a political pawn to get support for certain sides. And I think that a lot of the issues that they're trying to deal with are really irrelevant to what needs to be done in America and needs to be done in the world.
Yeah.
I think that trans people and athletes is not going to be a very typical thing because, again, trans people are less than 1% of the population, yet they're one of the most talked about and one of the most hated groups right now in America. Yeah. And I just think that's insane.
I do too. And the hate part or the misunderstanding, and I do want to get to that. What I don't want is for anybody to start watching this and just think that we're just gonna because you and I are very passionate about this, you know what I mean? You living it, me supporting, But let's start let's back up. So you're how old now?
I'm 15.
You're 15.
But 16 in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, wait, when's your birthday?
February 27th.
God.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
16.
Yeah, well, so mine's the 24th, and Elena's is the 26th.
Really?
Yeah, and your dad's is what, the March 14th or 13th?
March
9th. Sorry, Jeff. And my second child could be due any day now. I'm kind of hoping it'll be in there. But anyway, so you're 15, turning 16. What like, aside from what we're here to talk about, how do you like to spend your time? What do you like to do?
I'm very artistic. I'm a
Mhm.
very artistic person. I've never liked sports.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much ever, even before I came out and after I came out, it's just always been art.
Mm-hmm.
And the one sport that I did really like was swimming, though,
Mhm.
but being trans posed an issue to that in itself because
Mhm.
of the bathing suit situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I were to wear like a female like swimming suit, it would just be kind of awkward for me
Yeah.
personally, and
Yeah.
then I can't just wear the shorts.
Yeah.
So that definitely wasn't fun giving up swimming, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't really mind because I fill my life with so much art, and that's okay for me personally. I love drawing. I like drawing online and traditionally in
Mhm.
sketchbooks.
Mm-hmm.
I like painting.
Mm-hmm.
I love photography. I
Yeah.
love music. I play guitar and bass,
Mm-hmm.
and I really want to learn drums. Really want to learn drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually found an old picture of me at your house where I was like just in diapers and I was playing drums. I think it's
That's
really
so
cute.
cool. Yeah, your dad and I were looking at drum kits. So
Yeah.
much full, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I was like, yeah, we were looking on like Facebook Marketplace and stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. We should talk more about that because I love that. So a lot of creativity.
Yeah, love.
That's great.
And
That's
I love
great.
reading.
Yeah.
I love reading. And I also love school, or I don't love school, but I love learning. I
Mhm.
love learning about new things. My favorite subject is history.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've taken a lot of AP history classes,
Mhm.
and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
World history is one of my favorite classes I've taken.
Wow.
ever.
Yeah, me too. I like history.
So,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So, 15, and when did you start feeling how you feel? Like I even kind of, what did I say? At what age did you start to notice these thoughts and feelings that led you to where you are today?
I honestly can't really pinpoint a specific time, but I would say probably 5th grade.
Mm-hmm. Which is what age do you think? Fifth grade, and we could, that's what, 10?
Yeah, 9 or 10,
Mhm.
I think. I 5th grade was a really weird period for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say that that's a big reason as to why.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was younger, again, this is no hate to my parents, but I wasn't educated in what queer people were or trans
Yeah.
people were at all.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what I was experiencing. So
Mhm.
there was no way that I could put a name to it or speak about it. So I went through like these intense periods of like hyper feminization where I was like pink and dresses and
Mhm.
like just like very like I thought that that's what I needed to do, so
Mhm.
I did it,
Mhm.
and it just I don't remember ever really being happy doing that. But then in 5th grade, when I started going on social media and I started seeing how I could dress and what I could present myself as, and started learning about the LGBTQ plus community, then
Mhm.
that's when I was like, oh, I like this. I like to dress a little bit more masculine,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really like being called a she.
Yeah.
And so I was also going through some other stuff at the time, and my mental health was kind of on the downhill spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going to therapy.
Yeah.
And through therapy, that's where I finally figured out what being transgender was,
Mhm.
and that's when I decided that that's what I felt most comfortable identifying as a transgender man. And my therapist was actually the one who told my parents, but with my permission.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to start that conversation with them because I wasn't sure what their positions on it would actually
Your
be.
parents?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, but you said a couple of things there that my cynical mind, hearing people who might not understand your journey, you said a couple of things I'd like to get back to real quick. You said that you were feeling like pink, you're hyper feminine, I think you said, but that wasn't resonating with you. But then you said you went online and you saw how you could dress. Now, a cynical person might be like, oh, well, Jaiden got these ideas from going online. Is there any, like, can you kind of elaborate on that? When you said you went online, like, or what can you maybe talk more about that?
I didn't even think about that before I said that. But
I'm not questioning you. I just don't want somebody to misinterpret what you're saying.
No, I completely understand. I think that I do definitely see, because that's an argument that a lot of people use, is that it's a trend, and I think that I'm going to be so honest. I think that for some people, yes, it is a trend, but I would look at it less as a trend and more at just like developing people figuring out what their gender and sexual orientation are, instead of it's just I look at it as just more as experimentation rather than a trend. And while I do agree that because of that, you shouldn't jump straight forward into medical transitioning.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't support and love people who are in that stage of experimentation.
Yeah.
And for me, looking online and getting those ideas, I more use them as inspiration, and those feelings have persisted even to now.
Yeah.
So like it would be one thing if I saw those and I was deciding, or I saw a more masculine presenting way that I could be, and I was like that for a while, and then I reverted back. But I kind of, that was my introduction to it, and ever since then my mind hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well, it's like me or your dad or anybody being younger and like reading books, you know what I mean, and start to like get introduced to like new ideas. Like there's definitely books of my youth that shaped kind of how I think and who I became.
Right.
And I wasn't implying that what you're experiencing or felt even at the time or now is a trend, but more like I don't want anybody to say that it was going online, that you were, you know, shown bad stuff, or no, I just think you became more open-minded. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
that's perfect. That's what I was trying to
yeah.
But because you can see so much of the world from just a tiny little screen, and I was pretty sheltered at the time, so once I got on social media and I started seeing different parts of the world I'd never seen before, and there was just certain spaces that I felt very comfortable in, that I still feel very comfortable in right now.
Yeah.
And I think that social media, when used in that type of way, can be such a beautiful tool.
Sure.
I know that there's an organization in Charlotte, I'm pretty sure is a nonprofit. I'm not 100% sure on that though, but it's called Time Out Youth.
Okay.
And it's like a queer-owned organization for transgender and queer youth, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And over the pandemic, they use social media and Discord and like online talking apps to hold meetings together and bond people over online because of how isolating the pandemic was.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was awesome for me. I was a part of it.
Yeah. Nice.
Because I came out during the pandemic, so I didn't really have any other trans friends.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was possible for me to do or what wasn't possible for me to do.
Right.
And so social media was a very big part of my transition. I don't credit it for being the sole reason of my transition. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that even if I hadn't explored what possibilities I could have with expressing myself and my gender, I think I still would transition.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. And then you had also said, and that's one thing I also like you to clarify, is that you had said you talked to your therapist, which is great. You were speaking to your therapist, but that you said that your therapist helped you identify. Because again, I don't want, and this is me just making sure that nobody watching this is going to go, oh, what about right there? You know what I mean? Like, what was it like speaking with your therapist? What kind of things did you share? And you don't have to get, I know that's getting pretty, as I'm saying that, I'm like, whoa, I'm asking about your therapy session. I'm sorry about that.
No, I don't know.
But like, if you felt comfortable, what kind of things were you maybe initially saying, and then how did that process work for you?
Honestly, I don't remember fully, because again, this is probably about 6 years ago now. But I went originally for a depressive disorder I was having, and part of that was because I was getting bullied at school for dressing more masculine. 5th grade was a rough year for me, and so I went and I had known a little bit about what a transgender person was, and I brought it up to my therapist first. So if that's a thought that maybe like the therapist.
Right. Yeah, so you brought it, okay.
I brought it up first, and I said that I thought that I felt more like a boy than a girl. And actually, I told Abby first. That just like unlocked a memory in my brain. I told Abby, we were at a campground, and we were walking to the bathroom together, and I told her that I thought that I was a boy. after I talked about it with my therapist, and so that was the first time that I ever really told anybody. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. How'd she respond?
She, not bad at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that she was just kind of surprised because I don't think a lot of people guessed it for me because again I was a pretty feminine kid. But I think it's always funny because everyone said I looked like a boy when I was a baby because I had no hair, and I'm like, well, kind of worked out for my favor. So sometimes when I show people baby pictures, they're like, oh, I would have thought that you were a boy.
Yeah.
Like straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tangent.
Yeah, no. I'd asked you about your therapist and everything. Yeah. So, but that's so you were going to therapy, and so you said it's depressive disorder, and then you spoke to the therapist, and you brought it up, and then was it? And you said it was. So you spoke to the therapist, and then you told Abby. When did you tell your mom and dad?
So my therapist told my mom and dad.
Okay, so they asked if they could share that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because I didn't know how to bring that conversation up with them, so I asked my therapist if she could tell them, and they had a therapist parent conference because you can request to do that, and so they talked about it, and then both of my parents talked to me about it, and we started exploring the possibilities of things that I could do, and I changed my name to Jaiden. And I expressed that I wanted to go by he, him pronouns. I've always felt specifically like a man. I've never, because I know that was one of the questions from somebody else about what gender I felt most associated with. And I've always felt specifically male. I know that there's a lot of genders that are kind of both or neither, or just like a very fluid gender, and I've always felt very binary as a man. My mom actually, I remember when my therapist told her, she came in my room and she talked about it with me, and she said that she thought that I was maybe non-binary before I had told her, and she didn't expect me to be fully a man, but she's always been supportive.
Yeah.
And then right after that, we looked at, again, like I was saying, we looked at different options that I had to better express my gender. And we bought a chest binder, which is a really common thing used.
Oh,
it's it's kind of like a
girdle.
Girdle.
You know what a girdle? I think it's that thing where it kind of tightens everything down. Yeah.
It's like a compression tank pretty much, and it's something really commonly used to bind the chest, and so we got that, and then we went to the doctor to wonder or to ask if there was any options for me that were safe or reversible, and the unfortunate option that we decided to go with was a birth control called Depo-Provera, and genuinely that is one of the biggest things that I regret in my entire life. That was one of the worst mistakes I've ever made, and unfortunately it was because I was really uneducated, and my doctor was pretty uneducated too. That's one issue that I think a lot of trans people face, is that a lot of times we have to go to our doctors explaining what we want and what it is that we want. There's not a lot of doctors that are educated in gender affirming care at all, and what I wish that I could have done was gone on puberty blockers, because puberty blockers are completely reversible. You can go on them, and then if you go off of them, you will go right back to normal.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a really safe option for trans kids.
Yeah.
And of course, at that time, hormones like testosterone weren't available for me, because there's specific rules that you have to go through and guidelines to be able to get to hormones like that. But like that birth control is one of the worst mistakes I've ever made.
Gotcha.
If anybody is watching this and is considering going on it, explore every single possibility that could come from it, because there are so many side effects that aren't talked about.
Yeah.
I gained a lot of unhealthy weight. My mental health was really, really bad. It just made a lot of the issues 10 times worse.
And are you on a testosterone now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been on testosterone for, I have a little counter on my phone. 724 days.
Wow.
So
It's
coming
what,
up on
that 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, February 16th is 2 years. So, and that is one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
So I got off of Depo-Provera to switch to testosterone.
Okay. So that's another big thing I think a lot of people talk about, because a lot of people think that either that it's for some reason they think that
You
that
just
like
go to school and decide to go on
well
testosterone.
or that I think that they look to people, and I hope we don't take this the wrong way, but I think that people who don't understand what you are feeling or going through look for people to blame, as opposed to thinking that it's something that you are naturally and organically feeling.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to say, oh, it was social media, or it was the therapist, or the schools, or the parents. You know what I mean? They're trying to groom these, or not groom is kind of the wrong word, but I hear a lot of things being pointed at parents and schools for allowing this to happen or
Right.
encouraging this. And I have a thought on that, but so with like the medications, was that your idea? And this, again, some of these things might be too personal, but was that your idea? Was that your mom's idea? Was it the doctor's? Who?
Oh, it was my idea.
All your idea.
I had been wanting to be on hormones for years before I started, because I started. So I came out when I was probably 10, and then I got on hormones right before my 15th birthday. So I was 14, but it was I started that process like a week before I got on them. But it was a longer process, but I put in the order about a week before I started them, and then my birthday was very soon after that. So around 15. And so I waited about 5 years for me to be able to get on hormones.
Yeah.
So, and it was something that was my idea throughout that entire experience. Because with hormones, you have to be socially transitioned as a male or as the gender that you're transitioning for a minimum of 3 years.
I see. Okay, so say that, so to get on like hormones like a testosterone, or if you're transitioning from, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong on my terminology, from male to female, you get on estrogen?
Yeah.
Okay, of course. Yeah. I mean, it seems obvious, but I want to make sure that we're explaining that.
No, yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that you can take it. I wish that I could take it like estrogen, because estrogen, you can take it in a pill because your body can actually digest estrogen, but your body can't digest testosterone.
Oh, because it's a shot.
It's a shot in my thigh or in my stomach, but the stomach one makes me squirm.
Yeah, I hear you.
But you can also do it as a gel, as a topical gel, and that's what I started off as. But then I switched to injections because the topical gel, honestly, I was just lazy and I had to do it every single day. So, and I didn't feel like doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So the shot's only once a week.
Okay.
So.
And you do it yourself?
No.
Okay.
I do. My mom helps me.
Yeah.
Because I hate shots, but to be fair, I'm very desensitized to shots now. They don't scare me at all.
I hear you.
But I think that another thing that people are really misunderstood about with hormones specifically is that it's not a safe thing, and I would argue that it is. There's a lot of, like I said, that there was a waiting period that you had to go through.
I did not know that.
You have to get a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria by a healthcare provider. Therapy is highly encouraged, and once you're actually on hormones, if I get my blood levels checked every 3 months to make sure that my body's reacting well to the testosterone, and to make sure that my testosterone is at the level that it should be. And when it isn't, there's like guideline ways to go about it so that you stay safe. Yeah. And so there's a lot of ways that it's ensured that it's a safe process. Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that, like I touched on a second ago, at least from my perspective, and I watch a lot of news, both sides of the aisle. I want to make sure I'm, multiple news sources, but like, again, I touched on it with like blaming parents, right? And I haven't talked to your mom about this, but I know from your dad, who obviously loves you very much, I never got the sense that he was like, oh, this is great, and it's just, because of course he loves you and supports you, but it's I think it's something that it took time for him to wrap his mind around and still process.
I actually started testosterone. You only need one parent's signature, so I started with my mom's permission and not my dad's permission. That was definitely a process that he had to warm up to, because he's always been I love my dad very, very much, but he's always been a kind of not an anti-medication, but he's always been very skeptical with some medications, which I love that about him because I know that the only reason that he does that is to make sure that I'm safe and to make sure that I know what I'm getting myself into. But that's never something that he's been like exactly excited about me to start.
Right.
I know that he appreciates what it's done for me because it's helped my self-esteem beyond anything that I can.
Okay, so getting on the testosterone has helped your self-esteem.
Oh, 100%.
See, so that's something that I'm so glad to hear you say, because one of the things that and it's just funny because I had this whole list. I mean, it's funny because we're touching on all these things, but in kind of just such an organic order, which I love. I was going to talk to you about mental health, right? And I think, and I don't mean to make this so much about what my perception is of other people who don't positively view what you're going through, but when I hear you say that being on testosterone has brought you sort of mental peace, mental clarity, I don't know, but it sounds like it's a good thing, so it's actually benefiting you to embrace this and maybe to do some medical treatment versus and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm actually sort of telling you what I think I'm hearing, and I want to hear what you say, that being on this is giving you that sort of mental peace, mental clarity, self-confidence. So people who have a perception that getting on these hormone blockers or whatever is a terrible thing is actually giving you...
No, it's life-saving medication in my opinion. I think that people shouldn't be worried more about the physical effects of what testosterone should do to your body. I think that people should worry about the mental aspects of what it does to your body and how it can affect your mental health if you don't have it. Because one of the hardest things that I ever had to do was grow up and watch everybody grow into their bodies in the ways that they wanted to, and I didn't get to. Like, I remember I used to be so jealous of my brother because his voice dropped and he got taller than me and he got facial hair, and I never got to do any of that in a normal way, because I had to hit puberty twice, which was rough in itself, because that is a second puberty, is when you go on hormones.
Oh, gotcha.
Which, it's not wonderful, but it's what I needed and what I still need. But it's again, it's rough to see other people get to go through that, and I know that won't be possible for me.
Yeah. I
never got to grow up as a boy. I never got to have memories as a boy from when I was younger. I never got to grow up as brothers. I had to turn from sister and brother to brother and brother. And even then, I know with my parents, they won't ever fully see me as like a cis boy, like a cisgender, which, to clarify, cisgender is somebody who identifies with the gender they were assigned at birth. Okay. So a cis son would just be a cisgender son. Okay, yeah. And so, and again, that also is no hate to my parents, because my mom gave birth to a girl and she raised a girl, and so I don't expect anything else from her at all. But it is, two things can definitely be true with that, is that it's hard for me to know that, but it's also, I completely understand why it's a difficult thing for my parents as well. Yeah. And that's actually one of the reasons. I'm not going to share my name before, but that's one of the reasons why I chose Jaiden, because it's similar. Yeah. And I wanted to keep that name in respect for my parents. Yeah. Yeah. No, so, that's I did not know that. That's that's nice that's a nice thought. Yeah. Yeah. We had talked about we talked about this in the beginning, and I did want to touch on this life at school. Yeah. What has that been like for you? School has always been really hard for me. Also, to anybody who's listening, I got over being sick, but I don't have COVID.
We were joking about this prior, so yeah.
So, but excuse my stuffed up nose. But school has always been pretty hard for me, but I've always been I've always loved learning. I love love learning. I love taking advanced classes. I love college, the thought of college, and all of the college classes that I've taken. I pride myself on being a very educated person, and I try my best to learn about every person and every culture and every place and every time, because it just makes me it gives me joy to know to learn. And I think it's also, I think that the bar should be raised for education on other cultures.
Yeah, 100%.
So I love doing that, but school itself has always been very hard because hate is taught, and unfortunately parents teach a lot of hate to kids, and kids around my age and younger can be pretty mean. I've actually had to switch to online school because of a lot of bullying at school. Right now I'm finishing out my year online, and then next year I'm starting fresh at a new school, filled with a lot more of my friends.
Yeah.
But
well, can you without it opening up like a wound or anything, but can you touch on the bullying aspect?
A lot of people are just extremely rude, and but there's also actually two different times. Last year, at the beginning of last school year and this year, there's two Instagram pages made about me just to call me like fat and trans, and one person actually disclosed that I was on hormone treatment on one of these Instagram pages. I remember in middle school, somebody that had known me in elementary school told everybody my given name, and a bunch of people just started calling me that. There's a lot of slurs that have been called to me. There's even been a lot of, there was actually, I had to get a no contact agreement with these two boys at my middle school because there was like rape threats, just solely on the fact that I was born with a female body. And so it's just constant stuff like that. And it baffles me. I don't even feel mad at these people. I just feel bad for them because it's got to be miserable. Like, you have to be such a miserable person to put out that much hate in the world. Like, something must have gone wrong.
Yeah.
For you to sit there and say these horrible things about somebody who, I do volunteer work in my free time. Like, I just want to be friends with everybody.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to feel bad.
Yeah.
So for you to sit there and say these horrible things about me, like, go to therapy.
Yeah. No, I hear, and I mean, I figured that had happened, and yeah, I think one of the reasons that, like, and it sounds like you're probably the same way, but maybe for similar but different reasons, is I'm not comparing my high school experience to yours, because we've had two very different high school and middle school experiences, but I remember the feeling of not being included. I remember feeling, whether it was self-imposed or sort of cliquey at like different stages of my life, and I never want anybody to feel that way. You know what I mean? I think one of the reasons, like, I try to lift up people around me. I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm just saying that because I felt left out before, I never want anybody else to feel that way.
No, I think that's awesome.
You know, but you know what I mean? I mean,
It's
it sounds like, because I'm sure you've had, that's why you said, like, you love everybody, you want to help out. It's so interesting how people who have to deal with such, shit and negativity from others will take that and spin it in a way that's like, well, I'm not going to let that drag me down. I'm going to let it lift me up and learn from that, or treat other people differently.
Oh, 100%. I always try and treat, my whole thing is that I want to treat other people better than how people have treated me. Because I just feel like life's kind of too short to treat other people badly.
Yeah.
And I want to make everybody who talks to me feel happy with themselves and like they're having a good time.
Yeah.
Because I know that people don't really extend that like act to me, so I still want to do it to other people. And with the feeling of not being included, I think that it's a very similar thing. Because another thing with me, especially, again, since I came out when I was 10, so all of middle school I was trans, and when we went back in person, it was hard because I had never socially labeled myself as a boy before,
Mm-hmm.
because it was after the pandemic, because I came out during the pandemic. Before that, I was a girl, identified as a girl. After, I was a boy, so it was hard to know exactly how to present myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so of course at first I didn't pass, like people didn't assume that I was a boy
Mm-hmm.
at all, which was hard in itself. um, but then it was also weird because I didn't fit in with girls, because I know that I wasn't a girl, but I
Mhm.
didn't fit in with boys either,
Mhm.
because I was trans. So there
Mhm.
was very little people that I actually fit in with.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I never had a lot of friends growing up at all. Like, I had probably one or two pretty close friends, and
Mhm.
other than that, people usually just avoided me.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the friends that I made for a while was online,
Yeah.
because it was the only place where people didn't immediately judge me.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got into high school, that's when I started making friends again.
Mm-hmm.
I have a ginormous group of friends
That's
now,
awesome.
and all of us are weird, and it's
Yeah.
perfect. It's like my own little weird paradise.
Yeah.
I think that finding a group of people that's really similar to you is
Yeah.
the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Let me ask you this. Sometimes in in different groups, whether it's, and I'll just speak in traditional terms for a second, whether it's like, guys who are all sort of jockey or play a lot of sports, or guys who, anyway, competitiveness amongst men and like shit talking and sometimes like downing each other, or competitiveness and bitchiness amongst women. Do you feel your friend group is competitive? I think I know the answer. Competitive and like sort of, one-upping each other, or is it just more universally supportive?
Both, I think.
Both. Uh-huh.
I think that in their own respective fields, like competitiveness,
Mhm.
and like a lot of us are interested in the same hobbies. So
Mhm.
I know that a lot of us compete with each other, like in photography specifically. I have a lot of friends who are photographers too, and so we shoot a lot of local music,
Mm-hmm.
and we like to go to a lot of local shows and venues and stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that realm, it is pretty competitive,
Yeah.
because you kind of have to stay on top, since there's so many options for these bands to choose from.
Uh-huh.
Like, you want to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
But with support, I would say that my friend group is wildly supportive,
Mhm.
because we're a very diverse friend group. Like,
Mhm.
whether it's age, I have a friend who's 18, not anything weird, but there's a lot of different age
Mhm.
ranges. I think that I am the youngest in the friend group,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like 15, 16, 17, 18. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of variety there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety with gender.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who identify somewhere in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere neither, or just binary boy or girl. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of trans people
Mm-hmm.
in my friend group. And then even just with like race and ethnicity and culture,
Yep.
there's a lot of different religions and a lot of different nationalities in our friend group.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of Hispanic friends, and with a Hispanic background in myself, it's always, I've always felt more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with that, because my stepdad is Hispanic.
Yeah.
So he's been a part of my life since I was really young. So I
Yeah.
grew up speaking Spanish,
Yeah.
having a lot of Hispanic culture in my household.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really nice to be able to meet my friends and be like, hey, I cook that food in my house too.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak that language in my house too.
Yeah.
And so having that group of friends where I can just be myself,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is accepting, like nobody even blinks an eye
Yeah.
to your weirdness. And I
Yeah.
would say
That's yeah.
it's perfect. And I
Yeah.
would say that in our friend group, there's a lot of different styles too, of like how you dress. And that's another thing that people definitely don't immediately love, is that, I mean, I've got purple hair and like crazy piercings, and I just like to be myself.
Mhm.
But some people don't like that. But in my friend group, everybody's themselves,
Yeah.
and there's no wrong way to do that.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things that has ever happened to my mental health,
Mm-hmm.
has been getting a good group of friends.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's what I mean, because I think some people who maybe haven't gone through such a maybe, I mean, everybody goes through struggles. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that it sounds like you've just found these group of people that just support you, maybe more so than a traditional high school student has a friend group. I mean, everybody has friend groups, but I think you might be just uniquely poised to have people who support you in such a healthy way, because they realize there's a lot of emotions involved, a lot of there's a lot going into your life right now. You know what I mean? And so they just support you in so many different ways. I like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things I've found, and even then we're all over the board too. I have a lot of friends in South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and I think because I'm right now I'm getting my license, and so I have to get 60 hours, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that genuinely probably 30 of them have just been me driving down to South Carolina and back to hang out with my friends.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
cool.
love it.
That's cool. That's cool. Let me see if I. Okay. So this is one of my friends, Leslie. Let me ask you some of these questions. So some friends of mine asked me. Jaiden, could you offer any advice or insight on how to address a generation that struggles to offer acceptance? Like we're talking about, like we talked about, like in the beginning, maybe 10 or 15 years from now, this won't be such a hot button issue. But I, I just there's so much sort of progress and changes happening in the world that sometimes somebody being transgender is hard for people to accept. Like older, like your parent, not your parents, but older adults, say friends' parents. Can you talk on that?
Well, friends' parents. It's honestly kind of hard because I'm not in the position or like the age where I feel like I have power to what I say, because a lot of parents and stuff just don't listen to me. Like I've had parents who have specifically told their kids that they can't be friends with me because I am trans. I've lost a lot of friends like that. Some people's parents won't let their kids hang out with me or have sleepovers with me because I think that I'm like a weird predator or something. And so it's hard when adults have these point of views about somebody who's a child, because it's like, well, nothing I say is going to register to them because they're an adult. Even though I know that in my heart I would never do anything to hurt their kid, and I'm not going to make their kid trans. Because that's been a fear for whatever reason. I know that that's not any of my intentions, but they're not going to listen to me, and people in their world aren't going to listen to me. They're going to listen to them. And so it's hard sometimes for me to exactly know how to address that. But for other people, I think that the best thing that you can do is educate yourself and consume resources like this, where you listen to actual trans people talk about their experiences rather than just reading stuff online. I think that if your parents, or if you're if people from this kind of confused generation are willing to listen to you, I think that it would be best to educate them and maybe introduce them to people like me. But I know with a lot of situations there are people who just genuinely aren't going to listen. And I think that the best thing to do with those types of people are stick up for your trans friends and family and just fellow human beings, because there's not a lot of people who want to stick up for us. Like I know that one of my favorite, I used to have a friend who's now my neighbor, my next door neighbor, but we lost touch a little bit. But her parents and grandparents will refuse to call me he, and will call me she. But she was always she always stuck up for me, and she always corrected them, and was always very vocal about who I was as a person. And that makes me so happy, because it's like, even when I'm not there, you're defending my name and my identity, and I really appreciate that. And I'm sure other trans people do too.
It just baffles me. Like, I mean, it's almost like a sense of like I don't know if it's self-control or just control in general. When people like the pronouns, like, well, I'm not going to call that person, or why would you even, you know what I mean? It's like, if you ask me, hey Jamie, I prefer if you call me so and so. Oh, I need to remember that Jane prefers me. You know what I mean? It's not. I mean, it's just a respect thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't understand that, especially with like the pronouns, why it's so difficult. I mean, I understand the concept. It might be difficult for you to wrap your mind around, but just doing what is generally considered a kind act to refer to somebody how they want to be referred to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that one of my biggest things has been, you don't have to understand it, but you have to respect it. Because like,
very good.
People, you don't have to understand me, and I don't expect anybody to understand me, because you can't ever fully understand a different person. You can only fully understand yourself. And even that, you have to put time and effort and reflection into
Mhm.
understanding who you are.
Mhm.
And so, like, you don't have to get why I identify as a boy. You don't have to. You can have questions as to why. Like, I've had people ask why I'm a boy because I'm so pretty, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question,
Mhm.
and you can ask that question, but as long as you call me a he, I don't like.
Mhm.
You can wonder those things.
Mhm.
I just ask for respect
Yeah.
in my identity.
Yeah, your dad said something, and your dad and I've just talked about you, but in, of course, a respectful way. But he's, and tell me if this is right. He said that you all were together one time, and you said something about looking in the mirror. When you looked in the mirror, you saw a boy. Is that what something like? Is that right? Like when you saw yourself in the mirror, you didn't see yourself as a girl. You saw yourself as a boy.
Now I do.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Yeah, what is that like? Can you explain that? Because somebody might be like, well, wait a second, you're a girl, but how does that feel when you look in the mirror?
I feel it's that even then is a kind of hacked question because I know that I'm a boy,
Mhm.
and sometimes one of my biggest things that I get insecure about is that I know that I have. This just sounds so self-conceited, but I know that I have a pretty like, sometimes feminine and like pretty face, and with like blue eyes and stuff. Like there are a lot of those aspects. A lot of people deem very attractive, but for a girl and not exactly for a boy. So
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes get insecure about that, but through being on testosterone, that aspect of my insecurities has gone down significantly,
Mm-hmm.
and I start to see myself as a boy when I look into the mirror.
Yeah.
And that is one of the, again, like I was saying, that's one of the best things that has ever happened
Yeah.
for mental health.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard when you're pre-T or like pre hormones
Mm-hmm.
to look in the mirror and know that you're not supposed to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember being so insecure that I didn't even want to look in mirrors. Like, I used to shower with the lights off. It was really bad for a while.
Yeah.
And being on testosterone has helped me, like, want to be in pictures and want to talk to new people and have conversations with people and not be scared to look in the mirror. Nobody should be scared to look in the mirror.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
So it's life-saving medication.
Yeah. I'm just so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
So my friend Francis said, Jaiden, I would love to know how we can be better allies other than just in name. I vote for candidates that support transgender youth, and I want to be supportive and be an ally. But I wonder, are there concrete steps you can take to be an ally? You know, what makes somebody an ally in your eyes?
I was thinking about this one. I think this is probably going to be my answer to a lot of those types of questions, but education, educating yourself. I think that in trying to understand, because it's hard when I'm talking to somebody and they have absolutely no idea about anything that makes my identity, and I also do want to say that I would never ever get mad at anybody for ignorance, because I think that there's a difference between stubbornness and ignorance. If you just won't accept anything or won't absorb anything, that's one thing. But if you just simply don't know, I'm more than happy to share my perspective on things. But if you won't accept what I have to say, then that's an issue, and that's not a me thing. That's a you thing.
God, I can't even tell you how much that resonates with me, because I think some people's lack of willingness to be accepting is because they feel like that they're being put out somehow. You know what I mean? And to hear you say that, that it's, hey, I'm just open to explaining it. If you have questions, if you don't know, I'll tell you. But if you don't want to accept me, well, that's on you, not me.
Yeah,
that's 100%. That's a great way to look at life.
Yeah, that's not a me thing.
Yeah,
that's yours to work out.
Yeah, I've learned. It's so funny because I'm 49 next month, and it took me until about 6 years ago to make such a conscious effort to only surround myself with people that brought me happiness.
Oh, that's what I've had to do now.
You know what I mean?
There's been a lot of people, like a lot of my old friends there's just some people that are just miserable to be around
Mhm.
sometimes, and that's not their fault. Sometimes it is, but I just can't have that energy in my life. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've got enough to worry about.
Yeah.
Like I've got enough to worry about every day. I've got enough to work towards that. I don't need to be around you and just constantly feel bad about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to dumb myself down for anybody. So getting
Yeah.
rid of those types of people in my life has made me a lot happier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think everybody should strive to be around people that uplift them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like on a regular basis, you know?
Exactly. So for you as a person to be that person for a trans person, I think is one of the best things that you can do as an ally.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, voting in inclusive manner would help that significantly. I think voting is wildly important.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an
Yeah.
independent, I think that voting for the right causes,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what side that might be, is the best thing that you can do as an American, but as an ally too.
Yeah.
And so again, education, just uplifting,
Mhm.
understanding. I would say empathy too.
Yeah,
because
empathy. Yeah, very
a
good
lot
answer.
of people don't realize how hard it is. And so a lot of times when I explain that to people, I've gotten, well, why do it if it's so hard?
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I was given these cards, and I'm doing the best that I can with them, and that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll have a killer college essay,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that anything's going to be easy.
Right.
But it's just kind of the best I can do.
Yeah. 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 Totally.
If I think that if I had the choice to not be trans until I've been born a boy, I probably would have taken
Mhm.
it, but I didn't get to do that, so now I'm just gonna do the best that I can right now, and that's all I can do.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel happy?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've always kind of struggled with mental health, and there's a lot of things that won't go away regardless of how much therapy I do or
Mhm.
anything. But I think that also, like with mental health and with being trans or any of this other stuff, like it really more matters on how you respond to it rather than the fact that you have it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have, we've in therapy right now. We've been exploring like bipolar disorder, and so that's obviously something that people look at, and there's a lot of stigma surrounding that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, well, I'm going to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm identifying the problems that I have,
Mhm.
and I'm working to make everything better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm on appropriate medications.
Mhm.
I'm in therapy. I
Mhm.
journal.
Mm-hmm.
I read. I
Mhm.
do art. Like I
Yeah.
try my best not to respond to it with like just like throwing alcohol at the situation,
Yeah.
like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the same thing with being trans. I feel like if you go about it in a way that's serving to yourself, I think that it's a lot less of an issue. So
Yeah. Yeah. Jaiden, gosh. I didn't know anything about your journey before we started talking, you know, I mean, other than like what your dad shared with me, and I sincerely like appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me.
yeah,
I'm
cool.
serious, yeah, because I just wanted to. I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding and questions, and you said ignorance, and I just wanted to talk to you in hopes that anybody who watches this can learn, be inspired, share with others. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you.